Um, you've had your hard times with the Monmouth County Republican Party.
This is true.
And you're identifying yourself this go-round as a Tea Party candidate, as well as a Republican. What makes you a Republican? What makes you, able to cross the line of being a mainstream candidate?
I am a Republican. I've been a Republican since I registered to vote. I do not see myself as anything other than a Republican. I have identified myself with grassroots organizations, some of whom are Tea Party groups, others of whom are conservatives, many of whom recently have become active because of what's going on in Washington relative to health care and the economy and the stimulus bills and the bailouts in Wall Street. I'm identifying with my fellow countrymen, my fellow Americans. I'm also identifying with conservatives. Those conservatives ought to be in the Republican Party. It is very, very difficult for those groups to win an election with an independent running. What they do, in fact, with that independent candidate is they perpetuate the incumbent in office because they divide the vote among conservative voters. Conservative voters, by and large, are Republican voters. I'm hoping that by working with these grassroots organizations, I'm going to strengthen the Republican Party at all levels. We're going to consolidate our efforts as conservatives in a single candidate, and we'll be able to beat these progressive incumbents who specifically have to go because the progressive incumbents are driving up the spending and they're socializing our government.
If you don't get the Republican line for the primary, will you run or will you drop out? So you won't run as a Tea Party candidate? You will?
There isn't a possibility to do that. You have a choice when you file your petition as a candidate, whether you're going to run in a primary or whether you're going to run as an independent. It is impossible for me to do both. I have chosen to run in the primary. The grassroots organizations with whom I'm working are aware of that. They did ask me to run as an independent when they approached me, and I told them no. I said I will run in a primary. I'm a Republican and I plan on becoming a Republican candidate.
I'll go back to some of your issues with Monmouth County because they were pretty dramatic and pretty well covered in the press. And there were huge rumors and stories that you were actually going to change your allegiance and become a Democrat. Was there any truth to it? Were you at one point considering that?
That was a very difficult time for me in 2006 and 2007. I was very disappointed in some of the things that went on there. We do have a new chairman in Monmouth County now. I've been much more satisfied with what's going on. You don't agree on everything. I'm a product of a certain selection process. There's a different one. I've been quoted in some publications referring to that. I take nothing away from the present chairman and what he's trying to accomplish. And I applaud him for leaving what would have been an easy position for him to run for re-election and obtain to do this thankless job that he's doing. And I'm grateful that he's willing to do it because we need a leader that will get us through whatever was going on in 2006 and 2007. That was bigger than me. But what I will say with regard to your question about changing parties, there are some very conservative pro-life Democrats that live in my town and around my town in surrounding areas with whom I've had interaction even before holding elected office. Those people did not like what I was going through, and they were very encouraging to me. There were a number of Republicans at the grassroots level who also were very discouraged in what I was going through. We looked at a lot of options, and when I realized that what I was working on through that process was simply to keep the seat, I backed off, because that's not what we should be doing as candidates and as elected officials. It shouldn't have been about my wanting to keep my seat.
Okay.
It needed to be about what the people that I would be representing would be best served by. And when I examined it, my doing some of the things that we discussed might have produced an unnatural shift in control in Monmouth County government, and I decided that would not have been the right thing for the people that I would be representing. And I chose not to do that. I chose to back off. I took a position in 6 weeks out from the election. I did win by a large margin, but it was a bit nail-biting in getting involved and getting it up and running. But I did become the mayor of Highlands, and I've been very productive. I think it was the right thing to do. I've reduced the budget in Highlands by 5%. I have proposals on the table for next fiscal year that will do that again. I believe that we have streamlined government. We've retired off some personnel and we have not replaced. So we're really doing a good job. And I think Highlands needed that. So it all worked out for the best.
I'm going to touch on two things. We'll go back to Highlands in a minute, but you touched on the convention process, or the selection process. What do you think about Monmouth County selection process? Are you comfortable with it? Do you like where it's gone?
Well, I like what's in place now, much better than what used to be before I came on the scene. I'm a little bit, I'm not objective, because I was chosen through a statutory convention to replace Amy Handlin when she moved up to the Assembly.
Right.
I loved that process. That was my process. I also won via that process. So to ask me what selection process we should use, I'm biased. I'm going to say the process that produced me was a great process, which, puts me sometimes into comparison with others in the party, including the chairman, who have different opinions because they've had different experience. I believe the process that's in place right now, obviously I have my questions about it, but the chairman is trying to do his best. He has definitely improved upon what was there before the statutory convention by which I was chosen.
Why is it an improvement?
It's broader. It's a larger number of people. It's more a cross-section of the county than it used to be. There are elected officials that are at-large members in that process that give me pause, but I'm still exploring it, and the chairman's been very accessible to me to discuss it. He believes what he's doing is best for the party, and I can't question that. If a chairperson, even in a municipality, is basing their decision-making on what's best for the people they're serving, well, they're at least thinking in the right vein. And then if we disagree, we have to discuss it, we have to vet it, debate it if it's appropriate. In this case, I'm not sure whether it's appropriate. I'm not a chairperson, not even in my municipality. I'm a committee person, I'm an elected. There are a number of elected officials that are at-large members with whom I've been speaking. There are endorsements coming out ahead of the screening process that I question whether they're necessary, whether they're appropriate. But this is all for discussion within the party.
Well, what we haven't seen in Congressional District 6, which we have seen in 12, is a lot of sniping back and forth. As we look at Mayor Halfacre and Scott Zuprell, they've been firing at each other a great deal. We haven't seen that between you and Diane Gooch and anybody else who might be interested in 6. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I definitely don't believe in that. I believe in Reagan's 11th commandment. Don't speak ill of another Republican. Now, while I may be vying for a seat against other Republicans, we're all on the same team, and the end goal is to beat Frank Pallone. So if there's a negative, I don't want to say it.
Okay.
We need to leave Frank Pallone to his own devices in trying to find the opposition research against all of us. I think what's most important is that we speak about our strengths, and we allow the voters in Congressional District 6 to choose among our strengths and determine what best wins this election. So I suspect that unless my opponent feels differently, there won't be any sniping going on.
Okay.